Um, Here we are in the Travelstead room, and I thought I'd begin with a quote from Gary Snyder, the great Western poet. Snyder writes, "Of all the memberships we identify ourselves by, racial, ethnic, sexual, national, class, age, religious, occupational, the one that is most forgotten and that has the greatest potential for healing is place. We must learn to know, love, and join our place even more than we love our own particular ideas. People who can agree that they share a commitment to the landscape or the cityscape, even if they are otherwise locked in struggle with one another, have at least one deep thing they can share. Community values, which include the value of non-human neighbors in the hood, come from deliberately, knowledgeably, and affectionately living in place." That's Gary Snyder. And, you know, I like that as a spot to begin, because I think that we take place for granted kind of at our peril, that places matter. And, you know, there are places where we're comfortable, places where we can be ourselves, places where we feel more free, places that are formal, places that we feel uncomfortable. But there's something particular about a place like this, and the particularity has to do with the intentional desire to create a memory or a celebration or an honor of someone who took a stand, someone who did the right thing when doing the right thing, put him at odds with his society, with his church, with his government, with probably his friends and family, but he did the right thing anyway. And it's terribly important, and it's a kind of dreadful responsibility when you create such a place that you find a way to both honor history without calcifying it. And that is not easy. That seems to me one of the most difficult things, is finding a way to take the dynamic of history and put it forward as something to look at, but understand that you're not freezing it once and for all. And that, it seems to me, is one of the things that we want to explore in a room like this and in a museum like this. You know, there's been a long and vibrant tradition of trying to kind of represent history, the contested nature of history. Take the Holocaust, for example. This is a debate that still goes on. How do you represent the unrepresentable? That's a very powerful question. Or take the question of slavery. How do you tell a story that some people don't want to hear? How do you stay true to that story? And perhaps most important, how do you tell a story that doesn't freeze things in a way that there's no longer any motion in it? How do you capture both the contested nature of the story, in other words, the multidimensionality of the story, and at the same time let the story be alive enough so that generation after generation can come to the story and make their own meaning and take their own actions in light of the story? I mean, I think, for example, the story of Martin Luther King, which the official narrative of that story couldn't be more calcified. You know, here was a saint. He had a dream. He led a bus boycott. He won a Nobel, and then he went quietly into the night. I mean, what a story! And of course, we have prayer breakfasts, and we have a day, and we have a stamp, and we have buildings and streets named after him. But that story is so calcified, and from my knowledge and my experience, so untrue as to be not a useful story. So then we get into the contested nature of history and the necessarily contested nature of representation of history. So this is part of what I reflect on when I come into a space like this. How do we understand the space? How do we breathe the air, share the experience, but never with the interest of freezing it for all time?